Courtney, how you doing?
Good, Josh. How are you today? So nice to
Oh,
be here. Thank you.
we're such a pleasure having you on the podcast today. I know we were chatting for a little bit about getting this going too, so really excited to get you on the podcast and just talk all things about recruiting and AI.
I love it. I'm excited, and anybody who knows me knows I have an opinion. So here we go.
That's what we love about this, Courtney. That's the best. Before we actually dive into things, do you want to give everyone a quick introduction of yourself and Crelate, just so we can give some context to everyone too?
Absolutely. My name is Courtney Harmon. I'm the Director of Industry Relations here at Crelate. Crelate ATS CRM. So the way to manage your business, all things staffing, recruiting, but really the platform that connects with all the wonderful things like Quil. Me personally, I actually used to run a desk. I was a trainer, one of the most popular MRI network. So I was a trainer, director of learning and development. I've kind of done all the things. So whenever I say I have an opinion, I have trained many offices, helped them grow and scale. So kind of seen it all. And I love being on this side of it because now, with director of industry relations, I run the podcast here at Crelate too. So we talk to people like you and other leaders in the industry that are really driving success and what good looks like.
I love that. And we're super excited to have you on because we love opinions here at Quil. What makes us all better, what helps us go in that same direction together is we're helping to improve our end customers. And so I know Crelate's been doing a ton of awesome stuff, not only from like analytics, reporting, but even just utilizing AI on your side. I'm sure there's a lot of things that you can't talk about on the podcast that are going on behind closed doors, but obviously the big trend that we're seeing just inside of the third party recruiting space is people looking to find better ways to leverage AI. From your experience, Courtney, what have you seen as some things that are great opportunities where teams have looked to use AI, or maybe any things that you've seen that people have tried that just haven't worked that well in general?
AI is the shiny tool. It is the thing that everybody's talking about. Oftentimes, many firms have shiny tool syndrome. While it's great, this world is ever changing. Like literally, just think 2 years ago when ChatGPT came out to where we are today and how quickly that's moved. Somewhat alarming, but all in all, amazing in itself. Like we're driving the car with the pedal to the metal to see where we're going to go. While AI is amazing, it gets us to a place faster. That's what I like to say from my perspective. In my coaching background, I don't ever think or want it to replace a human element. But in my opinion, I needed to get us to a conversation faster. I needed to automate the things that maybe I don't have time to do. Like think about where you make the influence the most in your business. I wanted to help those things, whether it's those emails that like, hey, I need to not forget about these candidates or these clients to say, let's do a conversation. Let's have it. Let's meet up. Let's do coffee. Let me figure out where you are. But it's to say, okay, let's have a conversation because that's where I make the most impact.
Yeah.
So I love AI. However, we've all seen the mistakes that AI is doing. I'm sure you wake up to those same emails that I wake up to every single day that says, my parents met in your small town and they had coffee at this restaurant, which all of it's a fallacy. None of it's true. And I think we just have to get some learning lessons from those as we go into our clients and candidates to not make those same mistakes.
As you're looking at coaching or training people from a recruiting standpoint on best practices when using AI, what are a couple things that come to mind for you, especially just from the coaching experience that you've obviously had on your side?
Well, I understand we want the easy button, and that's why we all purchase AI, right? We have to figure out our processes. I think majority of the time when we get into these situations, it's really like, okay, yep, we want to increase our productivity. We want to increase our revenue so we can focus on that relationship building. But where does it go wrong? And oftentimes it goes wrong is because we don't have the process set to begin with to make the pedal go faster. I would consider, I work with offices that they're like, okay, well, I've had the same processes for the past 20 years. They work. I don't want to change them. Why fix what's not broken? But AI is forcing us to do that. Looking at our KPIs, that's a whole nother topic that I can rant on. Looking at our processes to say, are they the most efficient? How should AI help us? And it's really like, we have to fine tune this every single step of the way. Let's take an assessment of it in a month. Is it still working? What do we need to change? How do we need to change? And let's just make sure we're not setting it and forgetting it.
I think there's such an interesting part that I know I've learned, especially just from my time working with Ryan over the last couple of years, is around how businesses need to continually evolve and change based on the customer that you are looking to help solve for. right? If we're doing the same thing today that we did 5 years ago, it kind of goes back to the Muhammad Ali saying, where it's like, if you view the world the same way today as you did 5 years ago, you've wasted 5 years. And just that whole understanding that as your buyer, as your customer continues to evolve, you need to find a way to not only keep up with them, but making sure that you have that competitive edge in those situations too. Because if we are not continuing to get better, we know we live in a very capitalistic frame of world. And we know if we are not taking that market share, if we are not finding ways to evolve, somebody else is going to. And I think, I mean, from our side, that's what makes it fun, right? If we're not continuing to learn, evolve, and improve the process that we have in place today, it's going to be a certain point where we start to plateau. And I think the really exciting thing with where AI can come in general is, to your point, what are those tasks that are just so low leverage that we are still spending so much time doing that we could just have this beautiful artificial assistant take care of for us, so we can spend more time doing what we love to do best. And especially in the recruiting world, that's talking to clients and candidates. And so if we can help our team spend more time having conversations, it's a win-win-win all around, which is always the best part.
Yeah, and that's exactly how you should think of it, as an assistant. I know that I have an assistant that helps me get my task done on top of AI. Now, if you're an operations leader in our world, don't think everything's a hammer and you're trying to nail everything with this AI tool, right? While not all business problems can be solved with over-automated solutions, we have to figure out what that line is and where we want it to cross. And it might be different in every industry. I was in the tech industry, so most of the people that I talked to were developers. Large organizations worked with Microsoft cutting edge technology. They didn't want to talk to me on the phone all the time. So I understand I probably could automate more of my process than I can maybe whenever it comes to construction workers, because my husband will never check an email, and that's what the industry he was in. So you just have to know the space that you're in, and only you know that. And as that leader, you have to fine tune that process. So I love that.
One of the areas where that line is removing the human aspect of the recruitment process. Like, we hear a lot of our clients talk about, hey, the company that we're working with is thinking about adding like an AI screening layer where they're going to have a 30-minute conversation with a candidate by an AI. It's like, okay, they're going to do that for the next probably 3 months, and then they're going to see the repercussions of that. Like, the people choose to work at specific companies because the person behind that company and the people a part of that company. So I think that's one of the hard layers that I've seen, or lines, in the industry, where if you cross that, it's just like, it's really going to have negative repercussions, not positive repercussions.
Yes, I agree with you. I've also seen the other side of it, to say, well, I value my relationships and I need to make sure that I have conversations with everybody. And while I think that's valuable, how are you going to grow and scale at the rate that everyone else is with AI? So that balance is very, very narrow. And what is good today with AI is going to be different 365 days from today.
Hopefully.
Yeah. When did ChatGPT come out? It feels like forever ago. It was really just like a year.
It wasn't like 2 years ago, I believe.
2 years maximum, I think.
And I was like, what is a prompt? And then we're here every day. Copilot lives in my Teams every single day, or, Quil is on my call, or whatever that looks like. It's just, it's crazy how quickly it's moved.
One of the most interesting things that I've been doing over the last couple of months here is actually figuring out how to use AI to make sure I'm asking AI better questions. So total mind trip when I'm looking at that. So instead of me just prompting AI, I'm asking my AI tool, whether that's ChatGPT, Gemini, Anthropic, playing around with some of these. Here's a problem I'm having. What are 2 or 3 different things that I should be asking to help solve that problem? And using that to actually start my process going down that wormhole. As you've been using AI in general, because I know there's a lot of different systems we can use, what are some things that you've been trying? Because obviously you're using it from a daily, weekly perspective as well.
Yeah, I use it a lot with my research and my conversations, number one, and that's how all staffing and recruiting leaders can use it too. Just even a kickstart of ideas. I'm going to be completely honest. The last time Josh and I met was last week, and it was at the end of the day, and I was completely toast. I did not use my AI operator to help me say, hey, what are this conversation? Give me to my talking points. Here's what I want to say. I was too toasty to even think about the conversation. But I use that in that way most of the times whenever I'm talking to people, like, here's my stance on something, give me some talking points, help me get the juices flowing. That's where I am a lot of times. Or, you're so busy, and like, I sometimes will forget, like, Quil is a partner of Crelate. I'm managing those partners. I make sure I put it in my calendar to send an email reminder to say, hey, Josh, let's go talk. Let's not forget about our partnership, because I don't ever want to put it on the back burner. I think that's where it's most important for me. But I'm not going to lie. I go down these rabbit holes where it's like, how can I make my prompts better? And I've been using it for 2 years every single day. What operators am I doing? I talked to Mark Whitby, the recruitment coach, on a podcast 2 weeks ago. And he's like, a year from now, one AI bot is going to be talking to another AI bot to be like, I'm like, I'm not ready for that, Mark. That is like way too far where my brain is, but he's not wrong.
That's true. And I think the craziest thing about technology is that it exponentially compounds. And I know that's something that Ryan and I talk a lot about. It's even something we talk to our CTO about, but the way that AI in general just becomes more efficient based on how you train it, how we can make it cheaper to operate the models, how the code base can actually take less energy to formulate some of this stuff. And there's way more technical things that I'm just covering the surface of. I think it is insane to even try to predict what AI is going to look like in 1, 2, or 3 years, because it's only going to keep getting faster, exponentially compounding on the growth that it's seeing too. And I think that's one of the things that just excites me the most about what we're doing today. I know when I was a very young lad talking to my stepmom, who used to work for BlackBerry, which was a big Canadian brand that came out, did really nice things until we couldn't keep up with the iPhone anymore, just because the business world changed and evolved in a different way. But the one thing that she would always tell me is that we would always go to school for a job that would never even be invented yet. And it's the craziest thing about technology, and especially now looking back in my days, when I was in high school or even the start of university, I struggled using Google. I didn't know how to do it. I just didn't spend the time trying to learn. And now thinking back and seeing how I'm using AI, to your point, on a daily basis, Josh 15 years ago would laugh at the way that I've been able to advance this using it. And I think that the hardest part is you just need to lean in. You just have to try to find excuses and ways to see what happens if I try this. And I think the biggest thing that I've always found, just from like a learning or coaching perspective, is that the AI shouldn't give you your end result. And I know I've talked a lot about this on different podcasts, but even from a coaching perspective, I'm sure you believe the same, the 10-80-10 rule. I know Ryan always laughs when I bring this up because I talk about it all the time, even with our sales team here. But the whole idea being that you give it a prompt or an idea of what you're looking for. AI is going to give you the context, the 80% of the meat and potatoes in the middle there, but we always have to remember that last 10% of we are putting our finishing touches on it. There's this whole concept that people think AI is just going to do all the work for them. It can, but it's not going to be as effective as what you're looking for. Your human touch and what you're putting on that final piece is why people are working with you as an agency. And so if we miss that final step and we're only hoping for AI to do it all, we are going to be what is that saying, that we are going to create our fate or the destiny. There's a fancier saying that I can't remember here, where we are going to make AI take some of those jobs that we are looking to do just because we are not learning how to use it effectively. And if it is a co-pilot, if it is an assistant, and we are still the ones doing that end work, that is how it will continue to build and evolve. Because at the end of the day, I know our money and where we're spending our time with it is what's going to cause the evolution of how technology continues to grow.
Absolutely. And honestly, if you look at the staffing and recruiting world, this is why people got into this industry to begin with, was to help people. And if you're taking that ability out, what are you in this business for anyway? And again, I'm going to speak to those recruiting leaders. As AI evolves, I kind of talked about KPIs, but like if we're like measuring, like back, I don't know, even just a few years ago when I was coaching, people were like, you have to make 100 phone calls. I need my people to make 100 phone calls. Those KPIs and that hamster wheel, I like to say, many staffing firms find themselves trapped on a transactional hamster wheel. Really, they're chasing a surface level activity metric and losing focus on their core drivers of the fundamental issues like their processes, decision-making abilities, and hindering their ability to grow. Those KPIs are going to change. So you're not making 100 phone calls anymore. Or what is the metric now that you have your teams focused on to get the right end result, to get you to the phone faster, to get you to the business driving decisions? So I would tell all of the staffing and recruiting leaders to start to think about what your KPIs look like in your office today and how they're going to continue to change.
And I know you mentioned that's something that we could probably have an entire hour-long conversation. I know Ryan and I
Probably.
are the same. We are data nerds on our side too,
Oh,
but
I
even
love
at
it.
a high level perspective there, because to your point, like how you were thinking of using AI is going to help evolve KPIs, measuring points, everything like that. How are you seeing that evolution already come into place, even over the last 1, 2, 3 years, since AI has not only started in firms, but obviously started to expand and evolve through how productive it can actually allow us to be?
It is making us more productive. However, the do more mentality is not necessarily the right mentality. You've heard it as much as I have, and it was more embedded in my brain earlier in my life with sports. It's quality over quantity. It's not how many emails we're sending. It's not how many phone calls we're on, because let's face it, Josh, I have been on plenty of coaching calls to say, hey, amazing, your phone time is up, but you're not getting any job orders. Why is that? Oh, you're calling the Santa Claus hotline. No wonder you're not getting any job orders. Just because we require someone to do more doesn't mean the end result is what we need it to be. So I look at it as it's not a do more mentality. Yes, can it help us manage those things? But I almost think it's in the background. Like as we think of AI here at what we're doing here at Crelate and in our partners when we're strategically working with them, it's how do we get the people not to leave the system, to work more efficiently, to get to the end result, not the do more mentality. Because we don't necessarily want you busier. We want you freer to do the things that make the most impact.
I love that. And just in that transition point as well, I know obviously AI is a big thing that every firm, every business is looking to do. How has Crelate been thinking about incorporating AI from a platform side of things to help the staffing world just be more efficient in what they're doing?
Well, we're partnering with people like you guys at Quil that are on those calls. We've actually developed our own generative piece inside the system. It's a co-pilot as well. But what I love about it, it's using real recruiter intelligence. And when I say real recruiter intelligence, it's you are on the phone taking notes into your ATS and CRM. Because let's face it, if it's not in your ATS, did it even happen? But it's really the idea you're taking all that time to put your notes in, to have the conversation, importing your conversation from Quil, but then the generative piece on our end is actually helping you write emails based on the notes that you've put in. So you're not going to have to go put on all that PPI, the wonderful sacred information, to go put it in some generative thing that the world has access to. It's actually built into your system. Again, we don't want you to have to leave. So that was just iteration one for us and the conversations that are happening on the back end. I'm so excited just to be like, this is amazing. I wish I had that tool or these tools or access to all of these tools when I was running a desk. I would have been pretty kick-ass.
Yeah. And I think like the generative AI piece, especially as we're using it from follow-up materials, candidate matching, finding better outreach strategies there as well. And we know obviously the biggest crux when we're actually looking at using AI is what is the data that we're feeding it to help it make those great decisions, which to your point is definitely where these fantastic partnerships can come into play, because we only do one half of the equation and we need those awesome vendors like Crelate to make sure we can complete that whole transaction too, with the end goal in mind of how do we just help your team be more efficient in spending their time on high leverage tasks, not just doing more for the sake of doing more, to your point too.
Absolutely. I think it's amazing. And I know we have put a lot of thought into those partnerships as we've launched our marketplace. And we're so excited to partner with you just to see the end result for the AI and the webinars that we've done. It's amazing to see how that works.
Yeah. Hey, Courtney, if anyone's interested in learning a bit more about Crelate on their side, where can they find you guys?
They can either reach out to anybody here, they can go to crelate.com, they can listen to the full desk experience, they can reach out to me personally. I'd be happy to put them anywhere they need to be. There are plenty of options, and I'm happy to help facilitate any interest or answer any questions outside of that. I'm not on our sales team, but I do know the industry very well, and I do know that we do solve a lot of problems. So I can give you an honest perspective from industry, the challenges that people face, and help you answer anything that isn't exactly price related with the product.
I love it, Courtney. Well, it was a pleasure having you on the AI and Recruiting podcast today. Super excited to do this again soon, and really excited for the continued partnership with the Crelate team.
Thank you so much for having me. Ryan, Josh, it was great to see you guys again.
Chat soon.
Chat soon.
Thanks so much.